Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about my journey this year starting a creative business during a pandemic. I'm not sure if I recommend that, but you know what? That's what happened. I did it. So let's talk about it. So I'm going to walk you through this year and what that's looked like for me, but first I kind of want to talk about the triggers that led me up to this point, and then also the factors that went into all of it, because this has not been just I woke up one day and decided I was going to do this. It's been a culmination of a lot of things. So, starting with kind of the triggers, I have known for years that I have wanted to start my own business. I am very entrepreneurial minded. I have been very interested in running my own business. I have tried several different things, including starting my own theater company, Denver Theater Collective. I've also tried several other things that have not succeeded or really gotten off the ground. So yeah, I mean, that's been something that I've been very interested in. I've gone to Denver Startup Week for the past few years to, start learning about business and startups and, just getting used to what kind of things I need to be aware of, and continuing to learn in other ways. I've also worked for a few small businesses in a startup, so I've gotten a better idea of how those businesses have been run and identified what they've done that worked really well, areas where I might want to try something different, things like that. So yeah, there's been a lot in the background there, and also just my education at college kind of set me up for all of this. They were very focused on training me how to be able to do things myself and make decisions myself and think creatively and things like that. I got my degree in theater direction, so I actually directed several plays while I was still in school, and that involves not only managing teams, but putting together project management, things like that, scheduling, artistic direction. There's a whole lot that goes into putting on a production and producing it, so I got a lot of experience there right from school, and then also experience later on as I worked with theater companies and also ran my own theater company. Another thing that really set me down this path was actually joining TikTok last year in June. I joined just on a whim, just because it looked interesting and I was curious, and through TikTok I ended up actually finding a really large creative community, finding a lot of friends, getting to work with a lot of creators that were interested in telling stories and doing a lot of things like that, and it gave me a platform to make my art, which I had kind of put off for quite some time because I was busy learning about entrepreneurship and business and trying to get a good paying job and just going with kind of the normal 9-to-5 mindset. A few other factors that have really helped me to get to where I am and make this decision to launch my creative business was not only my experience in small businesses, but also support from friends and family. I had, again, a great community on TikTok that I developed. My family's super supportive and they've been very helpful in this whole process. So having that system in place has been really great. And then in addition to that, with all of the craziness of the pandemic and COVID, I was both unlucky enough to get laid off, but also lucky enough that then I was able to depend on unemployment while, sure, looking for other positions that might open up, but also building this business and trying to make moves towards the life that I want to achieve. Alright, so let's jump into what my timeline looked like. So ultimately, for me, everything kind of started in February. I already knew that my position at work was not super stable at that point, so I was already looking for other jobs, not having a whole lot of luck, which was, frustrating and stressful because I was applying for jobs that I definitely was qualified for. I did officially get laid off due to the pandemic in March. However, before then, I decided to go ahead and take a leap and start my YouTube channel here. I had already been thinking about doing that for quite some time, and that was just kind of a good point at which to do it. I had a lot of, transition in my life, trying to look again at what did I want to achieve in the future. And then, honestly, I mentioned TikTok earlier, but a part of that influencing my ability to do this was that it got me used to being on camera, it got me used to filming and editing and things like that, which made YouTube not quite so big and scary and much more achievable. So in February, started this channel, and then in March I was officially laid off and we had stay-at-home orders for COVID. So there was a lot of freaking out and stressing and worrying about how I was going to afford things, and trying to find a job, which again, like I said, was not great, especially after the stay-at-home orders and the pandemic really hit. There were actually a lot of job postings that were taken down, so it was even harder to find anything at that point. And yeah, I just ended up getting so stressed out that ultimately, after having a conversation with my mom, we decided that it might be good to take a couple of weeks off, essentially, just to rest, to, focus on just taking a break, not stress about trying to find a job, because again, we were in stay-at-home orders, so there wasn't a lot happening anyway. And then to really look at and reevaluate, what did I want my life to look like?
I feel motivated.
So when I did this and I looked at what I want my life to look like, there were a few things that came up that I have considered for quite some time that I really want. One of those being, I want to be able to work from anywhere. I want to travel and see different parts of the world. I want to experience living different places. And so for me to have a job or income that is not dependent upon living in a specific city or place is really important, and that's something I want to work towards. The next thing is being in control of my time. I really don't like the normal standard having to work 40 hours a week. Sometimes that's fine, but I like a flexible schedule, especially because I do tend to work faster than a lot of people in certain positions, and so it's always been a struggle for me to work in a normal 9-to-5 position. And when I finish my work early, as is wont to happen, more work gets piled onto my shoulders, and even though I'm still achieving what I should be achieving, I now have to do even more. So for me, it's been really good to have a flexible schedule where if I've achieved all of my work for the week, but I did it in 30 hours instead of 40, that's fine. I can either work on more things or I'm done for the week, but it's up to me. Another thing that I was really missing, which I realized after doing TikToks and starting my YouTube channel, is I really missed being creative. So I kind of knew after thinking about all of that I needed to get back to doing creative things. I mean, I got my degree in theater directing, so obviously that was creative. My entire life has been kind of based around arts and different things like that, different formats of art, so it was really important that I started to figure out how to get back into some sort of creative industry. There was also a long process where I was trying to figure out my branding and exactly what I would be doing, and ultimately I came back every time to every art form that I use and I tell stories through. It involves storytelling. So the interesting thing is, after I had these 2 weeks and I was able to rest and I was able to reevaluate, I decided that I was going to start switching over some of my branding towards creative goals. I didn't switch everything over. I was still very nervous about switching everything over to a fully creative brand, but I did at least start that process. So I had a Patreon that I already had, but I didn't do anything with it. So I went in and I kind of revamped that a little bit, and I ended up getting one patron at that point, so that was really exciting. And then I changed my Facebook a little more. I started leaning a little bit into sharing some stuff on Instagram, but I was still pretty closed off from some of those platforms because previously I had been very focused on entrepreneurialism and business, and so I wasn't sure how it was going to be received to suddenly switch over to storytelling and art and cosplay and things like that. I did, however, start putting more effort into TikTok. I had already told one long form story on TikTok, and so I started telling some shorter form stories as well as got into another long form one and working on those. I also started focusing a little bit more on my YouTube videos and looking at what kind of style I wanted to create my videos in, what I wanted to talk about, and just really working on improving my editing and filming skills. And then I again focused a little bit on Patreon. This was not the final stage of Patreon, I worked on it again later, but just the initial stage of starting to look at what I wanted to offer and again what my branding should be. Mostly I put a lot of effort into building the structure and the base for everything that I wanted to do, and I did this because of all of my experience in small businesses and startups. A lot of times when you are starting a business or an endeavor or something, you will actually, a lot of people will put off all of the basic structural stuff until later. You know, they just procrastinate and they say, oh, I'll take care of that later when I need to, or something like that. I have seen enough to know that that is not a great idea. You want to get that done early on so that when you do hit a point of growth or suddenly make multiple sales or something like that, then you're not having to do both of those things at the same time. A phrase that I think perfectly sums up what I'm talking about is you don't want to be building the plane while you're flying it. So yeah, I spent a few months just focusing on, okay, what do I need to work on? Again, looking at what I wanted my brand to be, what the, visually I wanted it to look like, what kind of words I wanted to be using, what summed it up. I took a lot of classes on Skillshare to help me figure that out. Working on building up my Patreon, and that included like all of the stuff in the background, the taxes for each state and like different countries, and yeah, just there were so many parts to that. So really focusing in on getting that taken care of so I didn't have to deal with it later. So kind of the main point in time where things changed significantly was in June. So in June, I actually had a friend who had worked with me previously on one of my long form stories on TikTok. He ordered a custom wand from me, and I had already been thinking about making wands, original wands, and selling those either through Etsy or through just an online store on my website. But then him ordering that from me was kind of the kickstart to get that going. So I worked with him on specifically what he wanted that design to look like, what he wanted the wand to look like, and I did some research and figured out what materials I was going to use to make it. I wanted to make sure that what I made for him was also a prop, since it would be used for storytelling and things like that. All the ones that I focus on making, I strive to make them a little sturdier so that they can be used as props and they won't be broken if they're dropped or things like that. So yeah, I started working on that wand for him. I got that pretty much completely finished, and I must have mentioned my Patreon to one of my friends and followers on TikTok, because then right at the start of July I had been thinking, it's probably about time to update the branding in my Patreon and get those benefits all updated, make sure that they really match what I want to be working on and that those levels make sense. And not even a week later, then suddenly he became a patron, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I was talking about with the not building the plane at the same time as flying it. So I had a sudden mad dash to get all of that updated and changed. I had to communicate with him to make sure that he understood that his benefits would be changing. I went ahead and honored some of the old ones, but then changed and updated to the new benefits because I had already had kind of in my mind what I wanted to offer. So I just kind of had to finalize that and then actually put it out there. And then almost immediately after, I gained 3 more patrons on Patreon. So that was insane. The months of June and July were a wild ride. A lot of things happened. Just getting that custom wand order and then getting those patrons, and it all felt kind of both out of nowhere and then also like that I something I'd been working towards, which was astounding and just exciting and bewildering. I had some feels those months. And in addition to that, I also had been working on a Skillshare class. So I put my first Skillshare class up in June, and then in mid-July, Skillshare pays out in the middle of the month. So in mid-July, then I got my first payment from that. And that was crazy because that was another thing that I had also considered doing for quite some time, creating online classes. Not totally thinking about that it was going to be successful right off the bat or anything like that. I did not have high expectations, just because I still wasn't used to having these successes. You know, starting out, you don't necessarily, you either expect a lot, too much, or you don't expect anything. And either way, you're surprised. So fortunately, I did the latter and was pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I started getting that income, and that class started doing really well, and I started getting some great reviews. Marketing Morgan does want to tell you about that first class and the reviews I got, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it over to her.
Hey, do you want to write blogs and create YouTube videos? Are you at a bit of a loss about where to start? Well, have I got the classes for you. In my class about creating blog posts, I'll teach you exactly what to keep in mind when you're composing that work of internet literature. Oh yeah! In my class about creating YouTube videos, I'll walk you through step-by-step how to do that with only your phone and an app called InShot. Say hello, internet fame!
Man, Marketing Morgan is so pushy. She can't help it. She's been in sales for a while. But really, go check out the class, it's pretty good. Alright, so like I said, June and July were kind of chaotic. July, like I said, I redid my Patreon. With that, I decided to go ahead and do the rebranding, since that was all kind of lumped together when I was doing all of the pre-work and figuring out what I wanted my brand to look like. So I decided to finally take the leap and change over the branding on my Instagram and also on like my LinkedIn and my Facebook, all those things. Again, on some of those platforms I had started to hint at my creative endeavors and projects, but I just hadn't fully started sharing all of that. So I made a post on Instagram and Facebook and basically said, hey, everyone who's been following me at the, up until now, I am about to make this change and I'm about to head into doing creative stuff that I really enjoy and find fulfilling. If it's not your cup of tea and you don't want to stick around, no hurt feelings, I just hope you take care and all that. So I gave people a heads up, but that was a little nerve-wracking at first, but it ended up ultimately being the right choice to go ahead and make that brand shift and go ahead and commit to doing this creative business, because I actually gained a lot more followers on Instagram after doing that. And it just, so far, everything that I've done has been received really well. I didn't lose a lot of followers, which kind of surprised me, especially since I had been pursuing such a, business-oriented, entrepreneurial type thing before. So we'll see in the future if that continues. But thus far, yeah, I haven't really lost a lot of people, which has been very surprising. Like I said, I did gain 4 patrons that month in July. So between all of those things happening, the blonde order and the patrons and everything, I really felt like the universe was saying, like, yes, you have been working towards this and this is what you need to continue to work towards, and don't stop, keep going. So I did. It was also crazy. July was the first month that I got my Skillshare payment, which, like I said, I did not have high expectations there. But I ended up making $20.55 my first month. And while that's not certainly going to pay my rent or anything like that, that was a pretty big deal. The fact that I had 3 different avenues where people were paying me for things that I was creating. That was just amazing, and that really, really helped me to have all of those in kind of the same month or two, because again, that really felt like the universe was saying, you are on the right track, you need to keep going with this. Alright, so then August came around, that was last month, and again things kind of continued. So I ended up gaining one more patron, so I'm up to 6 patrons now, which is super exciting. And then my Skillshare class continued to get more students as we went. So through Patreon for August, I made $27.10, and that's my takeaway. So I think it was closer to $30 total based on what the patrons are paying, but that's minus the fees and taxes that Patreon takes. So again, that's not necessarily something that I'm putting towards my rent or anything like that, but I'm taking everything from those income sources to put back into my business, and that's $27.10 I did not have before to put back into my business, so that was really exciting. And then from Skillshare in the middle of the month, I got $26.76 that month. So that was also cool to see that not only was I still getting money from my class in Skillshare, but it had actually increased a little bit. So in August, I also decided to try something new. I started drawing stickers, some of which I was just drawing for myself because I've been doing a lot of planning, and so I've got calendar pages to try to plan out the next few months. I also have weekly planners just to help me keep track of what projects I'm working on and what tasks I need to do each week and each day. And so I decided that it would be kind of fun to draw some planner stickers that fit exactly what I am working on. That way I could also make sure that they're stickers that I really enjoy and they're my style. And it would just be easier for the certain things that are repetitive, like YouTube videos, where I don't necessarily want to have to write out, create YouTube video every week. And so if I just have a sticker that represents that, it's a little bit quicker to just stick that on my page. So I started drawing that. I also then started to draw kind of October-inspired, Halloween-inspired stickers. I was very inspired and influenced by 2 YouTubers that I follow, and I love watching their videos, and that is Furry Little Peach and then Catnip. They both are artists. They do very different things. Furry Little Peach, she is focused more predominantly in commercial work, and then Catnip does an Etsy shop, so she creates product and sells that and has her Patreon. So I decided to kind of look at Catnip's style of drawing and start practicing by sort of imitating that style. It's not necessarily my style, it's not something that I will continue to draw in that style, but it was very helpful as far as learning how to draw digitally. I've never really done a lot of digital drawing, and I have been learning how to do so on just my phone. So I'm not even using a big tablet or anything like that, and that was very interesting. So yeah, copying somebody else's style has been very informative because there were things that I didn't really think about just looking at her art until I started looking closer when I needed to draw my own stuff and looking at the shadows and the highlights and other tones that are in the images, things like that. So that has been really interesting. So I actually really liked the stickers that I ended up creating, so I decided to order them and put them into a sticker sheet so that I could sell them in my shop. So these are my Pumpkin Witch stickers for Halloween. I will be putting those in my shop very soon so that you can order those. It's got basically a few pumpkins, a pumpkin wand, a black cat, and then a witch's hat in the stickers here. Again, probably not going to be my normal style, but I just thought they were super cute and fun and cozy for the upcoming season. And you know, with all the weird stuff going on this year, I feel like everybody could use just a little dose of cuteness here and there. So that's kind of why I ran with that. And then I hope to get more stickers produced in the future. I've already got some ideas and things that I'm working on, so that's been kind of an interesting endeavor. I'm not sure if I will continue to do stickers long term, but ultimately I'm just looking at experimenting and figuring out what do I enjoy doing and what works for my business. Another thing that I did in August is I actually filmed and edited my second Skillshare class. That Skillshare class is longer and it's actually geared more towards YouTube and video editing and things like that. That was an interesting experience because I had some audio issues when I first posted it, and so I was reached out to by one of the people that works at Skillshare, and they let me know that they had to take the course down because of the audio issues. I almost did not respond to that email because I just thought, well, that sucks. I'm gonna have to figure out somewhere else to put it. That really stressed me out because I had worked really hard on that class for a couple of weeks. But I did go ahead and I responded and I said, you know, I appreciate you letting me know. It's disappointing. I just want to confirm, you know, was the issue this, that sort of thing. I'm not really sure what I can do about that, so I may just have to look elsewhere. Sending that email prompted them to respond and say, well, have you tried just lowering the volume through your video? That might fix the fuzziness issue. So I actually just ended up going back through my video and editing the audio, turning down the volume where I needed to. There were a few parts that I had to cut out and do voiceover or something just to get that part back in there, but the audio just was not working at all even when I lowered it. But for the most part, I honestly only had to do that through maybe half the course, and it was still pretty much all there. So I was able to re-upload all those videos and get that up, and they approved it and it's live and everything now. But I just want to tell you, if you're trying to do stuff and something doesn't work, communicate with people. If it is a Skillshare class or something like that and they've told you that, you know, something is wrong with it or whatever, communicate with them, because honestly I never would have thought to just turn down the volume to fix that issue. So that person telling me that was a massive time saver because I didn't have to refilm anything. I also didn't have to sacrifice putting that video up on Skillshare. I was trying to look at where else I could post it on YouTube, things like that. But honestly, it's a really in-depth class. It's better served on Skillshare. So it worked out great, and all of that comes down to something that I think is so, so important in life and business, and that's communicating. So I just want to share that tidbit of wisdom with you that if something stops you or isn't as good as it needs to be, or whatever the case may be, the most important thing is communicating. Just make sure that you are reaching out and communicating and talking to people, because honestly that will help you to achieve things and resolve issues and get more clarity on whatever it is you're working on. And maybe that's not even communicating directly with someone, maybe it's just Googling things and looking it up yourself, but it's always better to go ahead and try to fix the thing or the situation or the issue. And if you can't, ultimately, then okay, you know what, you can't, and that's a bummer. But if you don't try, you might have been able to fix it pretty easily and you just gave up. So the final thing that happened in August is I took another short break. This was only like half a week. It wasn't a long one because I'm probably going to take some more time off later this year. But ultimately, after working so hard on my Skillshare video and having that not work out at first, and then I had to make the changes to get it to work and it finally was up, I just needed a small break. And this is so important when you are starting a business or running a business or just really anything in life, is that you need to take breaks and you need to take care of yourself. And if you're feeling burnt out, don't keep pushing, because you're just going to get more burnt out and it's going to be more and more difficult to keep creating and doing things. So now we are in September, which is when I am filming this and you will be seeing this. This month from Skillshare, again, my student count and my minutes watched went up, so I ended up getting $33.43 this month. And then, like I said, I did gain another patron in August, so my Patreon income after fees and taxes was $40.12. So again, super awesome. I'm so grateful to have those patrons because they allow me to continue doing my storytelling and to do new stories and basically afford new things towards that. So far September has actually been a month of a little bit of pivoting, and then also a lot of planning and looking forward towards the next few months, especially as we're heading into the holiday season and the next year. So like I said, I did get stickers that I will be selling, and I plan on doing a few more of these for the rest of the year. Who knows, maybe I will continue doing that long term, but it's just fun trying that out right now. I'm having a really good time drawing those and experimenting in styles and learning how to draw digitally. So that's been a lot of fun. Also just getting things organized and figuring out, again, what do I want to be doing in my business and what do I want my life to look like, things like that. There's kind of different stages of that. You kind of have to reevaluate and adjust throughout that process, which is extremely important when you are just starting. Don't get locked into something and then when it doesn't really work, consider the whole thing a failure. You're gonna need to be able to pivot. It's a skill, so if you are not good at it at first, don't worry, it takes practice. It just takes a few times and you start to get used to how to pivot. It's never easy because obviously there are, you know, emotions involved and you really want things to succeed. But the more you can pivot, the better you're going to be able to start a business, run a business, just function in life. It's just going to make things a lot easier. And a huge aspect of that is accepting your situation and then adjusting from there. The accepting is the hard part. The adjusting, I find that part exciting. So as you can tell from this video, I am just on the beginning of this journey. It is certainly not a full-time successful business that is paying all of my bills and continuing to grow. Well, I mean, it is continuing to grow, but it's a slow process. You know, I am gradually gaining followers and patrons and subscribers and all of that. The people that talk about gaining thousands of followers or subscribers in such a short amount of time, usually it's all a matter of luck and timing. It doesn't work out that way for everybody, and you know, that's okay. And it can be hard. I mean, it's not perfect. I certainly do compare myself to others periodically, but I just have to remember that my journey is my own and theirs is theirs, and they've had other struggles. And also remembering that there might be 1 or 2 years behind their success where they worked really hard and they didn't gain a lot of traction, and it just looks like they got a lot of success very quickly, simply because that's when you came across them. And there's just hair flying around in front of the camera. If you didn't know already, I do have cats. Alright, so I know that was kind of a long video. I tried to go quickly, and I covered a lot of different things since a lot of things have happened this year. If you have any questions about anything specific or anything that I am currently doing, go ahead and put those in the comments below, and I will maybe make another video answering some of those questions, going more in depth into certain parts of it. There have been times where I myself have wondered how somebody got started on what they're doing. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to give my personal journey, what that's looked like, and again show you that you shouldn't feel like you're failing if you're not gaining 10,000 followers in a month. That is not the norm. That is just a strike of lightning. A lot of times it's a slower, longer process, and you need to focus more, again, I know this is so cliche, but focus more on the journey rather than the destination, because ultimately you're going to spend the majority of your time on the journey and not on the destination. As per usual, I just want to say thank you so much to my patrons. I am so grateful to you guys, and I'm just so happy that you guys are along on this journey. And again, a lot of gratitude because you're helping me to continue to create these stories and do these things, and really just follow my passions. So I super appreciate you. If you are interested in becoming a patron, I do some behind the scenes and sneak peeks over there, so feel free to go check it out. I will link it below. No pressure. I know that right now times are challenging, to say the least. So if that is not something that you can afford to do right now, don't do it. But it'll be there later on if you feel like you want to join that group. It's a cool community, and again, like I said, I provide behind the scenes information, sneak peeks, creator challenges, things like that. So definitely check that out. I will also put a link to my classes below, so if you're interested in either of those classes, go check those out. You will get a short trial period for free if you've never been on Skillshare before using those links. And then if you join, it's only $10 a month, so it's actually really reasonable. reasonable. And there are just thousands of classes on there covering every possible topic you could imagine. It's a really great resource if you want to learn things and if you want to continue to grow, especially if you're interested in pursuing a new career or starting a new business or anything like that. It's a great resource. I would definitely go check that out. I have learned a lot of things towards my business from there. Yeah, highly recommend. And again, you will be able to find my stickers on my website. I will also link that below. That's just morganschreiber.com. I currently have 3 wands up, and I plan on getting some more wands up there too. So if you're interested in a prop wand to use for cosplay or storytelling, those are a great option. But otherwise, I just hope you all are taking care of yourselves and making sure that you are happy and healthy. And I will be seeing you all next week. I put out a new video every Friday, and hopefully this was helpful to you. Like I said, I personally have wondered about other people's journeys and how they got started, so I thought it could be useful if you're considering doing the same. And this is just kind of how I've taken advantage of 2020 and the chaos that it is. So I wish you the best of luck if you are starting on your own journey or trying to start a business. But otherwise, again, I will see you all next week. Bye.